It's a travesty. It's not the way it should be.
Even a convicted sex offender sees big problems with a policy which allows sex offenders to get near children again. It's a story you'll only see here on Action News. And that's our top story tonight at 6. Good evening. I'm Dale Urong, in for Warren Armstrong.
And I'm Graciela Moreno. An Action News investigation has uncovered several sex offenders who seem to have slipped through the cracks of the state law called AB 109 and Fresno County Jail policy. Action News reporter Corin Hoggard is live in the newsroom with 2 specific cases of sex offenders who would have been in prison before AB 109, but who were instead free to commit new crimes on new victims. Corin.
Graciela, parolees who violated their conditions used to go back to prison, but now they're supposed to go to county jail. And in Fresno, they often don't stay for long, if at all. And I found internal communications showing administrators at the top levels of state government are aware this has become a problem. School buses and children are common sights on the grounds of Roding Park. Unfortunately, so was Mark McDavitt. The 42-year-old has 3 indecent exposure convictions, and this year he was arrested 6 times for violating parole, including a couple times at Roding Park. But after each arrest, the Fresno County Jail released him. McDavitt didn't stick in the jail until last month when he was up for a new charge for annoying or molesting children at the park.
Mark McDavitt has a sexual nature criminal background, among other things, and yet he was out in the community, clearly violating what a sex offender should be doing.
Lynn Richard Brown represents law enforcement officers across the state in the fight to change the state's prison realignment law, AB 109. She says Fresno County has one glaring loophole. The sheriff's office confirms the jail is usually too full to hold anyone for simply violating parole, which means a sex offender ordered to stay away from children, schools, and parks probably won't stay in jail for violating that order. I talked to a registered sex offender who told me parolees are laughing at the system.
They're probably, enjoying it, all right, thinking that they may just get a slap on the hand and be released.
Gregory Bizel is one parolee who may have been laughing. The 54-year-old was convicted of lewd and lascivious acts with a child under the age of 14 in 1995. But in July, he was caught driving a car with an open container and a 16-year-old runaway boy. He never even went to jail, but a month later, Clovis police arrested him for annoying or molesting a 14-year-old boy at Sierra Vista Mall. But it gets worse. Parole agents say they've conducted home calls where child molesters are living in the same house with their victims. And I uncovered internal communications from high levels of state government comparing the situation to what happened with Philip Garrido, the man who held J.C. Dugard captive for 18 years. It says, quote, "At least in the Garrido case, the agent did not know the victim or potential victims were there."
Why do we have to wait for people to die or people to be victimized before we look at this and say, well, there is a pattern of behavior that's continuing?
An Action News investigation has uncovered several sex offenders who seem to have slipped through the cracks of state law AB 109 and Fresno County Jail policy. We found 2 sex offenders who were picked up for violating parole only to get released back into society. Gregory Bizel had a lewd and lascivious acts conviction, but when he was discovered with a 16-year-old runaway, he didn't even go to jail. A month later, he was arrested for molesting or annoying a 14-year-old boy at Sierra Vista Mall. Mark McDavitt was a repeat indecent exposure offender. He was arrested 6 times before he finally stayed in jail for molesting a child at Roding Park. Before the state realignment law went into effect last year, both men could have been sent back to prison for their parole violations. Now they're supposed to go to county jail. But in Fresno County, the sheriff's office confirms the jail is usually too full to hold anyone for simply violating parole. They're only holding violators who pick up new charges against them.
Why do we have to wait for people to die or people to be victimized before we look at this and say, well, there is a pattern of behavior that's continuing?
Action News tried to contact state corrections officials about this issue, but no one was available to respond.